Welcome to episode 24 of the Bytes podcast, and today's chat was with Dave Clare, who is an author, leadership coach, and a speaker. I really hope you guys enjoy the conversation. Welcome to the first episode of Bytes podcast that has been done in the last 4 months, and I have an extra special guest today. What's your name again?
Yes. Oh, it's all right. My mother can't even remember.
We have Dave Clare joining us, a friend who I've known now for a couple of years.
2 years, yeah. This podcast is 2 years in the making.
Exactly. It's been building up.
Yes.
Building up to this
No wonder
very
you needed
moment.
to have a 4-month layoff in preparation for this one.
And we have a little tipple that we are drinking today.
Yes.
And it is Tuesday, 7 a.m. No,
No.
only joking. It's 8 a.m. a Friday afternoon. Yeah, 7:30. It is a Friday afternoon, close to Christmas.
Yes.
About, what time is it? About 3 o'clock?
It's almost 4 o'clock.
Almost 4 o'clock. So I think that's ample
On a Friday,
excuse
4
for
p.m.
a,
on a Friday.
for a whiskey.
Happy hour.
For an Australian whiskey. And cheers,
Yes.
Dave. This is Starward whiskey, matured in red wine barrels. So it's a whiskey I've had before, and it's absolutely
It is.
amazing.
I'm assuming I haven't had a sip in advance, that it's divine.
I've already had 6 glasses of it, so could be a good podcast. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
It's been great. Thanks. Let's get into it.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Dave? There is an accent I do detect.
That is correct.
I'm thinking
Kanazi.
Canosian?
Yes.
Yes. How long have you been in Oz from Canada?
Born and bred Canadian. I was about 16 when we moved to Australia the first time. This is my second time in Australia.
Okay. They
Lived
let you
here-
back in?
Yeah, surprisingly. Then they let me back into Canada. And after 7 years, everything gets absolved, apparently. So my family moved over here when I was 16, and I grew up in my teen years here. Went to 10, 11, 12 Craigie Senior High School in Perth, West Australia. And
Shout out to Craigie
yeah,
crew, the
that
Craigie
doesn't-
crew.
To the Craigie crew. The Craigie Senior High School doesn't exist anymore. They tore it down, put some houses in, paved paradise, and put up a parking lot or something. So I lived here and then grew up in the banking and finance industry here. Was actually the R&I Bank back in the old R&I Bank days, which then became Bank West. So I was with Bank West for 13 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and then left there to go to Papua New Guinea, and was over there in banking again, but it was with the PNG BC, the Papua New Guinea Banking Corporation. But it was actually as an independent contractor, my very first foray into leadership. So I was a leadership development consultant hired by the bank to work with the national managers and the expatriates. To take them out of the 60s and 70s of leadership and management, move them into the modern 90s.
You're not that old, Dave, are you?
Yeah, yeah. We're going way back now. I carried my Sony 8-track Walkman. So it was over there. Then from there, left and then went back to Canada for 10 years, where I further expanded my leadership business and grew up my family there and my own family, and then moved back to Australia in 2009. And have been here ever since now.
10
So
years
10 years, yeah.
10
It was 10 years, August 27th, we were here 10 years, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
I'm a dual citizen, hence I'm a Kanazi. So I've got a hockey puck and a meat pie floating around up in there. So I speak
Thought I
with a
could hear
Canadian
something.
accent, but I use Australian words.
That's good. That's good. What about the Geraldton part of your existence? Because I
Yeah.
think when I first knew of you was through Conrad Francis. Shout out to Swaggy.
The Swaggy C, yeah.
You were in Geraldton working for a company there in a leadership role or in a
Yes.
team
Yeah.
role?
Yeah, it was so when we moved back to Australia in 2009, after the global financial crisis and all that sort of decimated a lot of the business that I had back in Canada at that time. I'm happy to explore into that too. But yeah, we came back here and then we thought, I was going to start my coaching practice again here in West Australia, and my wife suggested, well, why don't you just apply for a couple of jobs while we're here and see what happens. We did come back for lifestyle reasons and things like that. Yeah. And so I applied for a job, and 2 weeks later we were up in Geraldton having a look around because that's where the opportunity happened to present itself. And and my wife took one look around at Geraldton. She said, you're taking this job, and that's how I ended up in Geraldton. Pretty much. Yeah. But it was one of the best things ever happened for our family. So yeah, and then I was the general manager of ATC Midwest at the time. So it was a not-for-profit organization that was helping young people get apprenticeships and traineeships. And the board had approached me if I would be interested in running the organization, because in the peak of the boom, it was in significant trouble, and within 2 years, it was going to be bust. So yeah, so it was an opportunity for me to get back in the trenches, roll my sleeves up. It was for me to practice my craft again, having had my own business back in Canada for 10 years, coaching and leading other leaders to do that in their business. And I just thought it was a wonderful opportunity for me to become a practitioner again.
So leadership then, if we're going back to your younger days as a kid running around Canada, when did you think about leadership, or how did you develop a knowledge of it, or was it something that you're always good at, or like would you naturally go into a leadership position, say in sports teams, or like where did leadership show up in your life originally?
Yeah, it's a great question. Certainly where it showed up was through my parents. My dad, mom, I think, always blessed with great parenting. So I was fortunate in that space. But my dad was a big volunteer in terms of JCs, the Junior Chamber of Commerce. So he was national vice president of the Canadian JCs. He was, and then became a senator for the JCs. Then very big in Rotary and various other things like that. So I always saw him, and he was, whilst he was employed by other organizations, but he was taking a leadership role in his community, and through volunteering. But when we moved to Australia, like in my own childhood, like I was probably more the class clown than anything else, surprisingly.
I can imagine that.
Surprisingly. Apparently I suffer from middle child syndrome, apparently, as the one of three boys. But yeah, when we came back to Australia, when I started in the bank, I just had there was opportunities presented itself when I was the senior teller at Bank West in Murray Street, right in the Murray Street Mall, which the Bank West isn't there anymore. But when the supervisor was ill or on leave, I stepped up into that role. I just naturally progressed into that role, and a couple other opportunities presented themselves. And so I seemed to have this flair to work with people. And then when Bank West, when R&I became the Bank West, they were looking for customer service managers and things like that. And so I submitted my name for one of the roles, and I was one of the first customer service managers appointed to the North Metro region. So I was at Kingsley, had a small team, then went to a larger branch with a larger team, and so on and so on. And it just progressed from there. And then I became the customer service manager for Sterling Gate, Balcatta.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was looking after Balcatta and Belga branches, both the branches, right where the regional office was, and that's where I met my real first mentor outside my dad, which was John McGuinness, who I'm actually catching up with next week. So he's been a mentor in my life since 1989.
What did
90?
he do where you recognized him as a mentor? Like, what was the first interaction with him? Because obviously mentors are such an important part of growing at any stage in life.
Yeah, 100%.
How did you connect with him?
Well, so as a regional manager, it was really cool because, and I think this is really important from understanding what a mentor is like, and where I got this foray into like much more understanding that was leadership that I was really in. John noticed something in me that I didn't see in myself, and I think that's what great mentors do. He could see something in me that I couldn't see in myself. So my self-image where it was, he saw a much bigger image of me than I saw, and he helped me to see a bigger picture of what I was capable of. And then he invested in me, not only in traditional banking stuff, but in programs and courses outside the bank. I did the Pacific Institute's Investment in Excellence, which was all about how your mind works, goal setting, all this sort of stuff. Which was
were these done on cassettes, or were they?
Yeah, back in the we actually went to a 3-day training and stuff like that, and it was really phenomenal in terms of non-traditional, something you wouldn't think you would learn in a bank. And I took a real flair to that and started really practicing the principles that were in that. And then I was selected then from that to be one of the people who would become train the trainer for the bank when they rolled the program out to the bank. So then I got to learn how to be the facilitator of those sorts of programs. So I got trained to be a facilitator. And then with that, I took on other opportunities to lead larger teams within the bank, and got to a stage where, when we were running the call center at 50 William Street or whatever it is, the small building beside the tall building. There was, the very first team we were doing affinity lending for all across Australia from Bank West from Perth, where we were doing all this underwriting all these loans under different brand names through the bank, and I got to lead the first team in that space, and we did so well with that team of bank Johnnies that they said we were going to build another team, and I said, that's great, but I want to pick the next team. And what I did is I picked a bunch of people who'd never done banking before, but I picked a truck driving dispatch operator. I picked someone who had tremendous hospitality, and looked over this really diverse sort of team of people who understood people and could communicate really well, because I figured I could teach them how to do all the writing a home loan and all that sort of stuff through lending. So I got it just left from John doing that, investing in me, doing these programs, to then leading these teams, to leading a bigger team, to that, then to growing new teams, to recruiting people. It just sort of snowballed from there. And then when I finished there, that's when I left to take on this opportunity and thought, you beauty, I can go to Papua New Guinea, which I'd never been before, to do this leadership and do it like as a full-time gig.
Yeah. And what sort of philosophies did you take there? If you have an underlying philosophy for kind of team building and leadership, what would be your kind of key philosophy? So what it sounds to me, I'll try and extract what I got from you when you built the new team at Bank West, is that you see the people. So the which, in business, I mean, we've both been in business a long time, and it's all about the people and connections.
Yeah, 100%. It's all. I'm just saying, as you were posing the question, I'm thinking the first thing that popped in my head was they're just people. And it was quite fascinating, because I was trying to take your question into the context, but also layering it through Papua New Guinea, because it's a little bit different in New Guinea in terms of the day I arrived. I was pulled aside by the senior vice president of the bank, an expatriate man. He said, "Dave, you can't teach these people anything." Yeah, I mean, literally, it says
very open-minded gentleman.
You show them something, in 2 weeks' time, they'll be back doing what they always did. And he says, so just go out, have a good time, be safe, do what they said they want you to do, and just, don't worry that you're not going to make a difference here. That was my introduction, day one, plus malaria, to... Anyway, that's a whole
Was that
story.
like a red flag for you? Was that not a red, sort of like a red flag as in a bull going?
Yes, it was like a red flag to me, like as a bull to a red. Like I was so fired up about that. Because here's the thing, Michael, they're the national people. They're the most beautiful people you'll meet in terms of just so lovely. They just haven't had the same educational opportunities that we have. But I could take anybody, any highly educated person, show them something they've never seen before, and I guarantee you, if I show it to them once, and 2 weeks later they'll be back doing what they always did as well.
Yeah, and
because human behavior is human behavior. We all have the same gray matter inside our skull.
We do.
And we all evolve in the same way. Obviously, it just depends when evolution started.
Yeah, but not only that, that guy that told you, they won't learn anything. I mean, that obviously comes with a prejudgment from his point of view, which is...
There's also self-fulfilling prophecy built into that too.
Yeah.
If I think they're not going to learn anything, am I going to teach them anything? No. So the impact that we had, the contract was for 3 years, but I left after 14 months. My then wife was pregnant with our second child, and we just didn't want to raise another child there. Unfortunately, as much as the people are really beautiful and very kind, there was a bad element, which was extremely bad.
Of course, yeah.
We could do a whole separate podcast on that. But the impact, even in the 12 to 14 months we're there, I still have connections, thanks to Facebook and stuff, of people that I work with there. They sent me a message back. This was only about 3 years ago. There was a big event for the wrap-up of one of the other, the bank got merged or bought out by somebody else. But in the lady's farewell speech, she mentioned me. Like, this was 15, 18 years after I'd been there. Like, so you sit there and you think, just the beauty of... It was, I'm getting a little emotional about it right now. I'm just like, just to know that you had that impact.
Yeah, and that comes with the drive that you had, not with a closed mind. It was like an open mind.
No, because so back to your question, it's all about people. And even with my book, Simplified, leadership is simple. You lead people. It's just getting back to the pure essence of people. Do you look at your people as employees first, people second, or people first, employees second?
Yep.
So from a leadership point of view, that for me is one of my biggest philosophies, is that these aren't employees or resources. These are human beings who have goals, dreams, desires.
Same as us.
Same as us. Yeah. Right? If you're the boss, these people have the same dreams and desires and whatever for their own lives. So if we start treating them more as human, you might get far better results from them.
I suspect so.
I know, it's a funny thing. It's a really... and here's the funny thing, with all this advancement, digital disruption, technology, all this stuff that we're dealing with, this uncertainty that's milling around us right now is the most important time to bring humanity back to the workplace.
Of course. Yep.
And to start thinking about our people as people.
Yep.
And anyone listening to this podcast, if you work for somebody, my question to you is, are you okay with being called a resource? Are you happy to be treated as a resource, a means to an end?
Yep. Yep.
Because I know I certainly am not when I'm working for an organization. So maybe we should stop talking about our people as resources, and maybe they'll stop acting like resources. Maybe if we start treating them like people, and maybe they'll start bringing everything to the table.
I think that's a beautiful philosophy.
Yeah, so that's
And it works in all aspects of life, not just business, obviously.
Yeah,
family,
100%.
friends.
Yeah, look at my kids the same way. Like, I don't look at them as
you see them as people.
Yeah, well, I do. But like in terms of they're human beings that I'm responsible to help, coach and shape and mentor.
But they're watching you.
individuals.
Yeah,
They're watching
closely.
me. Absolutely. And I mean, I'm a parent first. It'd be great to be a friend and everything like that with them, which I get to now at a much more mature age now. My youngest is 20.
Same, so like 16 and 19.
Yeah.
It's a different playing field, and it's just a different level.
Yeah.
Speaking to them as adults.
Yeah, and I'd probably take more of a purely mentor role outside of being really good friends with them.
Yeah, and again, they're still watching you. They're still watching what you're doing. And I mean, you've had an interesting year or so in business, in
life and business,
and hitting some hard spots, obviously,
Yep.
and then coming through that and just dominating the last sort of 4 or 5 months, which has been...
Yeah, it's probably been at least 6 now. Yeah.
See, this year's gone very quick.
Yeah, I know, eh? Yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, like how this year's been for you?
Yeah, certainly this year started at the end of last year. So, it was, as I decided to roll back into the world and rebuild my business and do everything again, I wouldn't say, because we're going into 2020, so hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I built my business off of ego when I first came back into it. Like, it was all about me being the author, the speaker, and I thought I was going to take the world stage and do all this sort of stuff. And I
witnessed it as well.
And 100%. And like for me, and it was a wonderful learning opportunity for me. I had the book, and it was the accolades. The book was phenomenal. I had one of the biggest book launches that AIM's ever had in its history. It's all that was feeding. It was wonderful, and it was obviously very emotionally consuming at the time too. And I was getting really cool speaking gigs. But you know what? To make a life as a speaker, you've got to be doing like 100 gigs a year. It's like and so I was this unknown entity though. Nobody knew who Dave Clare was. My content was all relevant. Everything was like that. But my ambience of who I was and that nobody knew who I was. And I just got to the stage where I almost didn't know who I was anymore. And so I got lost, and then people were finding it hard to understand who I was. Yeah. And so that was sort of the tail end of
they couldn't connect to you as a person.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with my content. Like, it was like everyone was like, man, your content's amazing, but who the hell are you? Yeah. And there I'm thinking, well, I'm this amazing speaker, and I'm a published author, and I'm, so
as seen on.
Yeah, as seen on. Yeah, no, never did that.
The Metabytes podcast.
Yes,
so you can now use that one.
Yeah. This is going to take me to the stratosphere.
You don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was really a struggling time, and then I brought somebody into the business with me to evolve and grow with. But there was no clear plan. There was nothing in place. There was a lack of structure. Everything that I would profess that an organization should have, I was, totally lacking. Because my goal was just to be this wonderful speaker and then have all these people do all the work. And once again, but it was just built off of ego.
Was there a lack of purpose even? Or was the purpose there? The
purpose was there, but I didn't operationalize it. And this is what really important, because what my clients I work with today is making sure you're very clear on how you're going to operationalize your purpose. So I had a very clear sense of purpose, but I had no operationalization of it.
Things you got to do, the action.
Yeah, and I was almost, as much as ashamed to say at some stage, my personal sense of meaning wasn't connected to my public sense of purpose.
There's
and
a disconnect, okay.
Yeah, so, and it wasn't like it was disconnected, it just wasn't connected.
Okay.
It just wasn't, so when I finally decided to work that out, then I could operationalize how I was going to fulfill that purpose in the world. That's for me when I thought, right? And I really didn't know what my market needed or wanted. I knew what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to be this famous speaker, author who traveled the world and got paid lots of money to inspire people. But what I missed, and it came when I started to look at my goal that I had written down, was to create and inspire purpose-driven leaders. And what I'd realized is that I was doing all the inspiring stuff, but that it's like fireworks. It's really exciting, but nothing was happening. And so I had to keep lighting fires all the time, or setting off another firework, and setting off another firework. But there was no sustainable opportunity to help people evolve, no boots on the ground, no...
Yep.
So a great insight from Justin Bourne. I'm sure you've had him on your podcast.
Shout out to Justin.
JB.
He's not been on Metabytes, but
Okay.
he is on my hit list.
Okay, so JB, stay tuned.
Sup, JB.
Yeah. But he said to me, Dave, you really should run some case studies and find out what small businesses are looking for. Like everyone's seen my content, they've seen me do workshops and they're like, this is great, but you need to find out how that relates to small business. So I ended up then running back-to-back over a 4 or 5 month period, a leadership case study where I gave everything I had at a very reduced rate to 25 business owners and leaders. So I could
25, was it?
That was,
Wow.
25 in the end. And what I did is I said, here's everything. Everything I have, what I want in return is to spend time in your kitchen, in the engine room of your business, to understand, what is it that you really are struggling with.
Yep.
And after going through all that study, what I found come March, would have been by the end of March that I'd virtually finished all those case studies, that there was 4 things in common that every single one of those business owners and leaders had a challenge with. And I thought, okay, so with all my content, and if they got to know me through that, so working with them one-on-one was obviously to help them do that, I was like, if I could build a world-class process that for leaders that helped them evolve themselves and their businesses, so that in terms of how to stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people that they choose to serve, I could bring like a whole bunch of value to this world. And so that was me starting to operationalize my purpose. And so I started mapping out. I had it written up on the wall, a world-class process for leaders for leaders and their businesses and the people that they choose to serve, right? And so that's what I was going to develop, and that's how I was going to operationalize my purpose.
So it was like 2 bits. There was a missing part that came together.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and it was just like, duh. I think one of those aha moments is kind of like it's better than saying one of those duh moments. It's like it was like almost staring me right in the face once I'd done it, wrote it up there.
Yeah.
And when it was so funny because the 4 things that all these businesses had in common was a lack of clear goals and expectations, a lack of accountability, all right, a lack of alignment of culture and strategy, and lack of leadership depth and strength in their business.
Wow. Okay.
Every single one of the 25 leaders that I work with, those were the 4 common denominators. There was a bunch of other things, different things, but those were the 4 common denominators. So I said, okay, so my process then has to help build a culture and strategy alignment. It has to help them focus on what matters most. It has to then help them build a culture and brand relationship. And it has to bust the myth that execution is hard. Because everyone thought, like, it's too hard to execute. We get these plans, nobody does anything, it never happens. So that was all the ingredients that went into me building my world-class process and part of the old operationalization of the sense of purpose. And so once I started doing that, and then everything just started falling into place. And then here we are now, after doing that for 6 months, working with regular clients, actually end up getting more speaking gigs. I've like everything everyone tells you to do, I found my niche. So I have a very clear sense of niche, but here's the important thing that I learned from my niche was that my biggest clients aren't even in my niche, but they came from referrals from within my niche.
Yep. Yeah, and there's the people connection again.
Yeah, and it was just because my goal was to add as much value as possible to these people, but now it made sense to them. Now they're getting to see who I was. The stuff was relevant to them. So once again, when I talk about staying relevant in the hearts and minds of the people you choose to serve, I was relevant probably in the minds, but not in the hearts.
Okay.
But once I got into the kitchen and found out what their personal stresses and challenges were, and I could show them a system to do that, and actually care about them as human beings first. It's the same thing. Like I care about my clients as human beings first, clients second.
Yep.
No different than employees. I care about you as a human being first, employee second.
And this is a scalable system, I take it.
Yeah, and so with that, this is we were talking about this with the group the other night, is that my business plan, if you like, it's set on trigger points. So I've reverse engineered my mission in terms of what I need to become in the next 3 years, to what I need to do in the next 12 months, to what I'm doing this quarter. But everything is set on trigger points. So once I get to here, it triggers this. Then when this happens, then it triggers that. So everything's all set up. So I don't have to even think about all this other stuff. People go, what about this? It doesn't matter right now.
Yep.
All I'm focused on is these 3 things that matter most.
Yep.
So when I talk about making a decision, decide is to off-cut. So it's what I'm saying no to. I'm deciding what I'm saying no to so I can say yes, because I already know what I'm saying yes to.
Okay. Yeah.
So I want to learn what I need to say no to.
Yeah. Can you define, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
can you define one of your trigger points? Say over the last 3 months, what have you hit? When was the last trigger point that hit, and what was it?
Okay, so right now I've hit my first trigger point was 10 clients on my recurring my business, what I call my next 90 business evolution process.
Okay.
So I have 10 clients that I'm servicing and caring for through that process.
Yep.
And then what that triggers is two things. One is now I market to Brisbane because they're here in Perth, and getting 5 more here.
And these two trigger points or things you're going to do once you get triggered, are they planned out already?
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're going to be doing from an action point of view?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So then, which is why now the webinar and that I'm working on right now, which will launch in the beginning of January, is going to be able to promote and market to Brisbane market and all that to get the 5 that I need to get there, which will trigger something else, while I'm still getting the 5 that I need to get here. So once I get the 5 here and the 5 there, that then triggers something else.
Yeah. So it's a system. You've got a system in place, whereas a year ago there was you.
Yeah.
There was
me and a dream.
You, the ego, the dream.
Me and ego
floating
dream,
around.
Yeah, dream with an ego running it. And you know what? And I was running on empty. It was like, you know, like there's that scene in Top Gun where the thing's like, son, your body's writing checks that your ego can't cash or something, right? And I was like that. My savings were dwindling. My money was going out the door. Everything was sort of self-imploding at the same time because I was running on ego.
Yeah.
Right?
How do you use the ego just now? Because, I mean, I think the ego is still an important part of who we are. It protects us. It pushes us, be it through, envy or whatever. Because these sort of negative things, that ego is seen as a negative thing these days, I think.
Yeah.
I actually quite like the ego as, if it's controlled, if it's observed and spoken about. But I see it as something that can actually pull you through and push you through into different parts of your life if it's controlled.
Yeah, and I get where you're going with it, because to me, I think my ego was more like a shield. It was almost like hiding. It was protecting me, like you said, protecting.
Yeah.
But I think people with a really strong sense of ego, it's an internal thing.
Yeah.
Like my confidence level in who I am as a human being now is much higher than it ever was.
Yeah.
In any stage of my life, actually.
But it's not 100% controlled by the ego. You've taken control of it yourself, your heart.
And so it's like my ego is probably bigger now than what it was. But
it's under control, though.
But it's where it's placed.
yeah, exactly.
I wasn't using
You've
it.
You've not let it loose.
I haven't weaponized it. You know what you say, but there's some people weaponize their ego.
Weapon of mass destruction. It can be.
You know, like a lion doesn't have to tell you that it's a lion.
Yep.
Right? You don't have to be afraid. The lion doesn't tell you need to be afraid of me. You know you're afraid of a lion.
Yes,
right?
yes.
One roar and you're like, I'm out of here. So, but I guess at that stage way back when, I was trying to tell people how great I was.
Yeah.
Now I really don't care.
Yeah.
I know how great I am in terms of what I do. Well, I do, like in a healthy way, and what I'm capable of, and the value I can bring to other people's lives.
Yeah.
And that's where my ego is in a healthy spot.
Yeah.
And I think that people with a really strong sense of ego, that's where they play.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't need to.
I like it.
Yeah.
Can you define purpose? Because I mean, purpose is obviously a big part of your philosophy and your story. What
very easily.
Easily?
Please understand.
Everybody grab a pen.
Yeah, seriously, grab a pen. This is as hard as purpose needs to be.
Yeah.
Purpose is the problem you're most passionate about solving in the world. And when I say the world, it's your world, whoever your world is. It could be in terms of your family, it could be your demographic, your geographic, your industry. I don't care what it is. It's the problem you're most passionate about solving.
How do people find that? Because a lot of people are maybe not on that path, or don't know what it is, or find it hard to maybe define where that purpose could be, or that passion could be to solve a problem. How do people develop that, or at least search for it?
Yeah, and I think most people, if you just started searching for it, like I don't think purpose is something you create. It's something you discover.
Okay. Yeah. And
I think it's already in us somewhere, especially as you get older and wiser. Like it took me 48 years to work out what my purpose was.
I actually think when you're in your late teens and 20s, the purpose thing is blocked off. Like I think you need that discovery part. You need that bouncing around. You need the.
But it wasn't something we talked about back in our days. Like today, it's far more popularized
Yep.
term, if you like. And
Yep.
but I also think it's putting a lot of pressure on young people to find their purpose. You got to
You
find
must
it.
have a purpose.
Yeah, what's your purpose? And like, you know what?
I don't know.
No,
I
just
don't know.
just go out and explore things, and because here's how you discover your purpose and how you can, go and experience things to add to your lists, as I would call them. First thing is, what are the things you're most passionate about? Like, make a list of the things that you're most passionate about.
How do you know what you're passionate about? What's the feeling?
Okay, so what does passion mean?
I think it's a hard one to define because it's more an internal feeling, excitement you get, or something that you do without you realizing. Like, it's not a chore. Like something, it's something that you do and you're just in it, and you sort of maybe lose time.
Yeah, there'll be those things. So those are very modern ways to describe passion. If you like, do what you love and you'll never work another day of your life, and all this sort of stuff, and things.
The money will come.
Yeah, please don't subscribe to that. But passion, actually, if you go to the root of the word passion, the etymology of the word passion, it means suffering. So the thing you're most passionate about is, what are you willing to suffer for or sacrifice for? What are you willing to do no matter what it takes? A lot of people there's a lot of stuff going around social media right now about obsession. Like, what are you obsessed with, which is beyond passion, apparently.
And not the Kardashians or
no,
anybody
not
like
the obsession. No, but to me, passion is your ability to endure suffering. What are you willing to suffer through? Not like suffer like you have to go through pain and suffering, but if you're not passionate about something and it gets tough, what are you likely to do?
Yeah. Will the passion itself bring you through that suffering?
Yeah, if you have it, it will. If you don't, it won't.
It's not. Yeah, you're going to stop.
Right. So
stop
the passion, what you're most passionate about, is the thing that you would be willing to go through no matter what. And when I sat down, when I was going through the financial challenges I was, and emotional, physical, and everything I was, I'm like, when I decided that this is what I'm willing to suffer for, if I lose everything in this process to build what I need to build to achieve what I want to achieve, I'm like, I didn't care. If I remember even saying to my wife once, I said, look, I'm putting in our garage, if I have to live in that pizza box on the street to make this happen, that's what I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
That's passion.
Yeah.
Right? And I was really willing to do that because we got so close to that. That it wasn't going to stop me from going after what it was I knew I needed to do in this world.
Because it's not pleasure. There's no pleasure in it. Sorry, depending on how you define pleasure.
Yeah.
But it's not a quick dopamine hit. It's something that's going to drive you through, that will be with you, that you'll think about, that you'll obsess over.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like, obsession is a really cool term people are using right now, but that also comes with its dangers too, right? But I'm like,
language is a hard thing.
Oh yeah,
because
words
everybody
matter.
has a different take on it as well.
So when you're using words, please be careful. Like for me, I love words now. I've got this fascination for words because I want to know where they all came from. I'm always looking at the root of the word, and like decide, which means off-cut, and passion, which is suffering, and because we use these words just flippantly today. But if you go back to the root of the word, so to me, make a list of those things that you're most passionate about, something that you'd be willing to do that you would not give up on. And then if you make another list, actually, of all the problems you see in your world, and you look at those and go, what's the most important or powerful, problem that I see that I would love to be able to solve? And somewhere between where your passion and that problem lies, at the crossroads, is your purpose. Now that means you might need to go out and experience a whole bunch of stuff to find out what you're really passionate about, or go out and experience things to see what the world's problems are that you're like, oh, that frustrates me, and I'm so excited about this, and that frustrates the crap out of me, and somewhere in crossroads of those two things will be your purpose. I wish when kids were at school, instead of saying, what do you want to be when you grow up, we started asking them, what problems would you like to solve when you grow up?
Yeah, it shifts the brain into a completely different way of thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so anyone wants to discover their purpose, start making those lists. And you know what? Your purpose may evolve as you start to discover it, because the more you experience things, the closer and closer you'll get to it and crystallizing it. And please let me assure you this, if you cannot explain your purpose in 10 words or less, you don't understand it well enough. You're not clear enough. Because Einstein said if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Yep. And when you can articulate your purpose for yourself and or your business in 10 words or less, you're pretty close to it. And also please understand, especially from a business context, that if your purpose doesn't serve your customers, it's really not your purpose. Because your business exists to solve problems, passionately solve problems for some other people. Yep. You might have a purpose as to why you have that business, but the reason why that business exists is to passionately solve a problem for people, which is its customers.
Okay, so there can be multiple layers of purpose.
Yeah, and this is what I'm talking about. So this public sense of purpose, if you cannot get your own personal connection, personal meaning within that, then you're not really connected. So it's great that everyone gets out of bed in the morning to go do this, because it's, this is the exciting part. This, and this is why having a purpose in business is really critical, because this is why we should all get out of bed in the morning. I can't wait to go and solve this problem that I'm passionate about in the world today. Because I assure you, nobody jumps out of bed in the morning and goes, gee, I can't wait to make Michael rich today. Right?
But if you're welcome,
if you feel like that, please call Michael at Meta Creative, and he'll be glad to take you on board. So there's our public sense of purpose. But if we can actually help that person get their personal meaning connected to that public sense of purpose, you've actually just got a deeper level of engagement now that and that brings everything to the table that human being has to offer. That's the power of purpose.
And it is ever evolving, I take it. Or do you think, how far can that purpose? I mean, if you've got your real purpose,
yep,
and it's connected to your business, which has a real purpose,
yep,
is that it, or is what things can you do to, or do you need to do anything to keep it going? Is this the
Well, with that sense of purpose, once you get really crystal clear and you're confident that that 100%, this is why my business exists, this is my connection to that, I'm all with that. Purpose creates opportunity.
Yeah.
It doesn't limit you. It actually creates opportunity. Because you're looking at things, you go, will it help me do this? Yes or no. Will it help us create this? Yes or no. If it's yes, then we can do more of it. Because this whole adage, what keeps you up at night? Well, that's all the problems, right? That's your problems. What keeps me up at night is me thinking about all my problems. What gets me out of the bed in the morning is thinking about other people's problems and how I can help them solve them.
Yeah.
And all the different ways, because why I do what I do won't change, but how and what I do it today can and will change, and will always continue to change.
Yeah.
That's what we need to understand. So when you think about, will it change? No, the why I do what I do won't shift dramatically at all. How I do it today and what I do today can and will be totally different, probably in 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
Because business is a series of evolutions.
Oh, it certainly is. Now, every year. It's,
yeah. And once again, when I talk about staying relevant in the hearts and minds of people you choose to serve, well, why everyone's still going to want that problem to be solved, but how they want it solved today and what they want to do to have it solved.
Yeah.
It just gets back to when Ford allegedly said, if I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said more horses or faster horses. But he gave them horsepower.
Yeah.
Right? They did ask for horsepower.
He was looking at the
they wanted more horsepower.
Beyond, yeah.
They were looking at how it had to look. He was thinking and how and what. And he said, well, it's still the same why, but I'm going to give you a different how and a different what.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
Slightly different tact here.
Yep.
Over the last 100 years, who would you define as the perfect leader?
Wow. The perfect leader.
If there is one.
Well, I only struggled to answer that initially because is the perfect leader an imperfect leader? Well, we think about, really authentic, vulnerable people in that. Nobody's perfect. So is the perfect leader the one who's most openly imperfect?
Yeah. Who would it be? Or who? It could be a few people.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be a lot of great leaders out there. We go, wow, they're really amazing leaders. But that's only based on what I'm allowed to know about them.
Yep.
And I'm always cautious about this. I've always told my kids, be very careful who your heroes are, because they're all humans. There's always something going on behind them, behind the scenes, and nobody's perfect, and they will fall down. All heroes fall down and have moments.
I mean, you just have to look at your JFKs, your Steve Jobs, all these guys.
Like even Elon Musk, who would be one of the most exciting entrepreneurs on the planet. When I say he's one of the greatest leaders, he certainly has some of the greatest leadership philosophies. I was just reading another post on him yesterday, actually, and some of the things that he's talking about with his team, I'm like, man, dude's onto it. So demonstrate, but if you ask people who work for him, they might tell you he's an a-hole.
Yeah.
Or they don't handle the pressure. Like if a lot of people you talk about Steve Jobs, will say he was, depending on how you define his leadership in terms of how he led Apple, but in the day-to-day human being interaction, he was a dick.
Yeah.
Perceivably to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Visionary. Yeah, so, you could say Obama was a great leader. But most people, you speak to a bunch of people there, they'll tell you, yeah.
Middle of the road.
Right now, if I
put
my hand on my heart and say the only person who's really demonstrated to me some of the most amazing leadership skills is the New Zealand Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Jacinta. Is it Jacinta? Jacinda? Yeah. But
I can't remember her second name, yet.
Yeah, she's been demonstrating some of the most phenomenal leadership skills. She's very personable. She did does some really cool stuff.
She uses the latest technology stuff as well.
Yeah, she's very digital savvy. She really relates. She resonates with a lot of people, staying relevant in the hearts and minds of people choose to serve. She's got a real core sense of values.
Yep.
She's got a charisma about her.
Yep.
So from that, Definitely. Organizationally, there's Richard Branson, but there are a lot of people, once again, will probably have second opinions about that too, but he obviously demonstrates he's got some really sound philosophies.
Yep.
We buy into his, offerings. Ray Dalio, there's all these people that are out there. I mean, Gary Vee, when he talks about stuff, he talks about leadership, like he's onto it.
Yep.
But once again, there could be a bunch of people who,
And I think a trait with nearly all of these people, be it the Jobs who had the big vision for Apple, but on a personal level with his staff was probably, as you said, a bit of a dick. But there was honesty with all of them.
Yeah.
It was truth ran through.
Yeah, they didn't pretend to be anybody else.
No.
And number two, so that authentic, vulnerable, that imperfect, perfect leader. Like I was just with one of my clients, and I'm going to give him a shout out because he's like, I love spending time with him. Jim Kelly from King's Transportation here in WA.
G'day, Jim.
G'day, Jim. And I just gave him a copy of my book, and I wrote in there just like, it's people like him who inspire me to keep going. And he's just like, he just cares so much about his people.
Yep.
And is he the best leader he can be yet? No, and he knows it. He admits to that, but he just has this passion for his people, for helping them grow. We created a Kellyism for him. He just said this thing. It was like, invest in your people to get the best out of your people. So he says, it's my job to put more into my people if I expect more out of them. I have to put into them first before I can ask them to give me more. And so he invests in his people, and he just really believes in that. And he's, a sense of core family values, that, and he's authentic.
Yep.
There is a general manager of a transportation logistics company. So we can talk about all these bigwigs and the famous gurus that are all touting out around there.
Yep.
But here's a, day-to-day hero of a leader who's out there doing it on the, in the real world.
I like it. I like it.
So good on you, Jim.
A big shout out. So what was the name of his company?
King's Transportation and Logistics.
Nice.
They're a national company. He's the general manager for the WA operations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very
good.
And once again, just like amazing.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's a question I ask most of the guests that come on the podcast, and I did warn you about this one.
Okay.
So hopefully you've done your homework. If you had $10,000 and you were starting everything again from scratch on a business or on a project, what would you do with that money? Where would it go?
That's because what I would have done with it years ago, because the world was different then, to what I would do today. I would certainly have invested a lot more into a smarter digital marketing strategy, 100%. My mind just keeps going back to I would have invested in me.
Yep.
In terms of, but I would have to make sure very smart about what would that investment in me be this time.
Yep.
Like if I start over again and I had to do it myself, I would have put me through those courses that I was blessed to be put through, the training that I got to receive, so I could understand about people and how our mind works and that whole human behavior process.
For very complicated people. Humans
absolutely. But the funny thing is, Michael, the process for human behavior is very simple. It's what we run through it that complicates it. Right? So for me, it would definitely be an investment in myself and in getting very clear on who I am as a human being. And like I said, I'm a slow learner. It took me 48 years to work this stuff out. But and then it would certainly be a smarter digital marketing strategy for me, because I just, and this is quite fascinating. Like if you think about, like I'm 54 almost. In 3 months' time, I'm 54, although I don't sound it, right?
I'd say 52.
Yeah, but at least it must be the whiskey. But for me, I'm a slow learner. I look at my life. I'm thinking, what? People being born into the world today, or even the last 10, 20 years, they don't know what offline is. They understand what online is, and I challenge a lot of people. A lot of people in my age bracket, and you're getting close, are thinking about winding down. Right. So here, if I was going to do it all over again, here's the backbone to the philosophy of what I would do. Is let's say I'm 53 right now, almost 54. 35 years ago, I was 18. Today, I still think I have 35 good years ahead of me at least, especially with the advent of modern science and technology. If I can keep the stem cells in my knee and I can do all this sort of stuff and I keep myself moving and keep my gray matter solid.
The gray matter is the big one.
Yeah, the gray matter is there. I have at least 35 years. So imagine if I could start all over again today with everything that's available to me today, like how like with all the technology, everything's free.
Yep.
But I had 35 years of experience,
Which you have.
which I do, and now I have another 35 years.
And it's like you could grab that hindsight and just flip it over into your future.
and turn it into foresight.
Yeah.
Right? But leveraging everything that the world has to offer to me today.
Which is, I mean, the opportunities out there are stunning. And we're living in one of the best ages that we've ever been. And I know there's lots of talk with climate change. And if you watch the news, everything's negative, number one. So that's my tip for today. Don't watch the news.
Yeah, no, I can't remember the last time I watched the news or even read it.
Yeah. And definitely don't watch Today, Tonight, or any of these things. It's going to pollute your grey matter.
Well, and I feel empathy for, like, I understand what those shows are about. There's some people who are suffering and stuff like that. But it's, the best way to avoid suffering is to start going after what you want. Stop running away from what you don't want. Start running towards what you do want.
Yeah, but humans are the healthiest we've ever been. Yeah. Poverty is down to the lowest it's ever been.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really interesting mind flip when you look at the positives that we're currently sitting in.
Yeah.
From a technological point of view, from a health perspective, from longevity, child mortality, all that sort of stuff is at the best it's ever been.
And it's only going to get better.
It is, yeah.
Right. So we are in our generation's most uncertain of times. Every generation's had their own uncertainty, but this is our generation's most uncertain of times. But here's the exciting part. Predictability is now out the window. We used to be able to predict 10 years this, 10 years that. Right? That's all gone. But there's no opportunity in predictability. But there's tremendous opportunity in uncertainty.
Yeah.
And this is where this should be the most exciting of times for us as human beings, to be able to do whatever it is you want. For people who have been working to live and all this stuff and in jobs they just don't enjoy and things like that, you have the opportunity right now to step out and do something that you do love and find a way to start monetizing it and operationalizing that pure sense of purpose that you have to create whatever life it is you want for yourself by serving other people.
Yeah.
And you can do it virtually for free.
Yeah.
Like for what we get to do with YouTube and you name it, all this sort of stuff, even the phones, and it would cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even 10, 15 years ago, when I had my other business back in Canada, back in 1999, for me to have gone to the production quality I can do today, or even a podcast like this.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
The cost, and now the reach and everything like that.
And just the opportunities for business. People are still talking about the financial sort of the feeling of the financial sort of downturn, which happened now 11 years ago.
Yeah, get over it.
WA, it took a little bit of time for it to kind of hit WA, but I've always just not ignored it, but I've never used it as an excuse. People in business use it as an excuse every day.
Yeah. The market's
still
down.
Follow the market.
So what you're saying is the market determines your success. So you're a commodity.
Yeah.
Because that's what a commodity is when the market determines the price.
And is that probably a detachment from purpose? Is that a detachment from what you're wanting to do with your business that you're talking about?
Yeah, because you're giving control to something else, which is called the market.
Yep.
Because you're saying, well, my business is at the will or mercy of the market. Because anyone can do business when it's good.
Exactly. And WA's been through that.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why I challenge a lot of business owners right now. Great, you've got your $1 million homes, you got your $100,000 Land Cruisers, you got all this sort of stuff. Business is struggling now. Show me how good a business owner you are now, because anybody could do good when it was good.
Yeah, and when the boom was on, it was like, I think the disconnect there is there was no connection to the people. It was let's just take.
Make the truck was backing up the doors and beep beep beep, boom, the doors, money would fall out. You could just put a shingle up and say, I do that, and people go, I need lots of that.
Yeah.
So we had order takers, not salespeople.
Yeah.
Like, how many of those do you want? Okay, look at me, I'm a great salesperson. Look at the relationships I have with people. And I don't, this might be offensive to a few people out there who might be listening, but I'm saying, seriously, this is what it was like.
Yep.
It's not like that anymore.
Certainly not.
So, pardon the expression, get over it.
Yep.
I was talking to a buddy of mine. I was up in Geraldton on the weekend. He's slightly older than me. And he's talking about, Dave, like this, all this stuff on, and it's just terrible. And I'm like, mate, if we're sitting here in a tornado, I'm going, holy crap, we're in a tornado. How can I deal with it? How can I interpret it? And you're going, hands over eyes going, there's no tornado, there's no tornado, there's no tornado. Denying that it exists when it's happening isn't the answer.
Yeah.
Or how are you gonna deal with it?
Yep.
That's what we need to start doing. Show me what you got now.
Yep. Face it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this actually is a very exciting time. So exciting time for people to get in, and if your business model is done, and I firmly believe that every business, has a business model, right? Every business model has a shelf life. My question is, has yours expired and you just don't know it yet?
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so you have a
Yeah,
choice.
you've got the blinkers on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have a choice. You can either put yourself out of business or have somebody do it for you.
And they're there.
Yeah. Well, when you put yourself out of business, all you're doing is putting your old way of doing business out of business.
Yep.
When somebody else puts you out of business, you're out of business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is what we have the opportunity today. You can create whatever you want. There's hardly any price tag to it. Yeah, it means you have to do something different. Yeah, you might have to learn some new skills. Maybe you have to
learn.
Yeah, I know. God, I finished school back in 1984. What do I have to learn
I tell
now?
you what, I've learned more in my 40s than I did my whole teens and 20s. I'm on a, I mean, I'm quite selective with what I'm doing, but
Yeah.
the grey matter question, the
Yeah.
grey matter you were talking before,
Yeah.
we have neuroplasticity. Our
Yep.
brain can, even at our age, and that's the thing. You go down the negative path. We're getting older. We have our memory's getting worse. This is happening. It's
You still see 90-year-olds go to college, mate. So
man.
tell me
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you can't learn something.
yeah. And I think it's such a good thing to do. I mean, I just did an online course. I've always been a bit of a science enthusiast and did an online course covering the special theory of relativity. Just to test myself, and this was something from a time perspective. It was only like 2 or 3 hours at the weekend, every weekend, but it was just really good to think, like to deeply think as well, and try and understand abstract concepts. And I mean, I'm sure. I mean, the wine I had on the Friday night probably destroyed a few neurons, but like on the Saturday, I built some more connections back up, which was great. So,
But how easy is it to consume content now? Like quality content still. You can get great quality content, like audiobooks. Like I can go riding my push bike and listen to an audiobook or a podcast or whatever at the same time.
yep,
And I'm physically getting better. I'm mentally getting better.
yep.
There's no reason why any one of us can't learn a new
There's
skill or a
definitely
new
no
thing.
excuse for learning.
No, absolutely
Yeah,
not.
at any age.
Yeah, other than just a lack of desire.
Yes.
So
Before we finish off,
Yep.
I have a couple of quick fire questions,
Oof.
which I didn't.
okay, you didn't prep me for this one.
didn't prep you for.
Okay.
But big shout out to Tim Ferriss, who I was listening to a podcast the other day. I can't remember the guy's name. Alan. I can't remember the guy. Paul Attia, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he had a really interesting format for it. And these were a couple of questions he had asked the guy. But he asked 5 things for each of these things. I'm just going to ask you one.
Okay.
And only 2 questions.
Okay,
So
great.
what scares you currently?
Sharks. My nickname is Sharkbait Brouhaha.
Aha, okay. Well, has there been an experience with
I've
a
been
shark?
in the Australian waters 4 times, and 4 times I've
4
encountered
times?
4 times in the number of years I've been here, and I've encountered deadly creatures every single time
Okay,
I've been in the water.
2020, you were going to start off the first week. You were going to go down to the coast.
Yeah.
You were going to go for a swim. Go to Medham's Pool. There's lots of old people around
Okay.
there. You can go in there and feel quite safe. No
Next
sharks.
question. Sharks and needles. Scare me
Sharks
the
and needles.
most.
Okay.
Would you like something more deeper than that? Is
No,
that
no,
what you're
that's
looking at?
fine. That's
okay.
fine. If that scares you,
You know, it
obviously.
scares the crap out of me.
What about a shark?
I can't even watch needles on the TV.
What about a shark with a needle? Is that
Yeah,
like
flying sharks with needles? I'm out.
and tornadoes?
Oh, yeah.
Obviously. What excites you for 2020?
Oh, what excites me, like, I am just the opportunity that it's going to bring. It's kind of like it's a new decade. It's not just another year. It's the beginning of a new decade.
I know.
Like, everyone jokes me, like, wouldn't it be great to have 2020 vision? Well, guess what? Next year everybody does.
Ooh.
How cool is that?
I like that.
You
I
know,
like
it's
that.
like, but no, I'm so excited about the opportunity.
2020. That's insane.
I know.
2020.
Like, if you asked me back when I was like 18, like,
What would you be doing?
Yeah, 1984. What about 2020? I'm like,
Flying in cars around.
yeah. Well, Back to the Future kind of got a little bit wrong, but hey, but I'm just so excited for the opportunity, and you know what? Only because I'm prepared and I'm ready, and
Yes.
I'm the
Yeah,
most clear
yeah,
and
yeah.
focused that I am that I've ever been. In terms of why I would do what I do, what I want to do, the impact I want to have on the world, my life, everything like that. It's just there now. It's almost like someone just wiped the slate clean. There's a whole brand new whiteboard with nothing on it, and it's a whole decade. Because I read.
Whiteboard is so like early 2000s. Dave.
I know,
It's
but that's
just-
the
it must be
highest. Someone put, "What's the best piece of technology you've ever used?" And I said,
Whiteboard.
"Whiteboard." I love a whiteboard. But if you look at, I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
That's all right. But anyway, so we got like this 10-year blank slate.
Yep.
And that's right. Yeah. So I read it somewhere or heard someone say it was people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 10. Right. So I'm thinking we're at the beginning of a brand new decade, and like my 50s 50 to 60s are going to be the most epic years of my life.
I like it.
Yeah, and so I'm excited that this is the, all this stuff, this is the beginning of that 35-year, like it's the first step, January 1st, 2020, it's my first step into that new decade.
And I think you have a completely valid point there. And I think too many people think, okay, there's lots of opportunity and it's going to happen quickly. It's a long game.
Yeah, and I'm thinking 35 years. So what am I going to do in the next 10? So I'm looking, okay, I know what I want to accomplish in the next 3, and that's what I'm focused on. But I'm not stressing out whether what I do in 1 or 2 or 3 or 10, because I got 35.
Maybe even more.
Yeah, at least minimum 35. Subject to anything else. But if I take care of myself, do everything like that, you never know what happens in your life. But at that, I've got 35. So 1/3 of that is this decade. That's just the way my mind thinks. I'm just so excited about the opportunity that it will bring, and the learning and the evolution of myself, and who I'm going to continue to grow and evolve into be in terms of where I want, in terms of the goals I want to accomplish. Because please understand, anybody who's listening to this, this adage that if you want to grow your business, grow your people is a bunch of BS. It's actually, if you want to grow your business, you need to grow yourself. It's because the more you grow, the more your business can grow. The more you grow, the more you can be for your people. Therefore, your people can become more by helping them become more, and then your business, and then your customers get more, who we're all here to serve anyway.
I like it.
Yeah, so this, mate, what I'm most excited about is this opportunity for the next 10 years.
Beautiful. To
be in the 2020s. And be able to do that with some amazing young adults in terms of my kids, and just to see what they're going to do with their lives. Yeah. And probably this decade, I'll become a granddad again.
That's just, my knee just hurt just then.
Yeah, I know. So that's why I got to get in shape so I can.
Do you think in the 2020s a Canadian team will win the National
Hockey League, the Stanley Cup? Well, let's put it this way: we won the U.S. Tennis Open, we won the NBA, the basketball, and Canada would gladly trade both of those to take the Stanley Cup back. You can have both those titles back. We won our Stanley Cup. But here's the funny thing: it's just like anything. 20 Canadians win the Stanley Cup every year.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, on a 40-team roster, 20 of them are most likely Canadians anyway. So the Stanley Cup always comes back to Canada, just not under a Canadian badge.
I like it. Where can people find Mr. Dave Clare?
The simplest place I tell people to look is just at my website, www.daveclare, the Irish way, .com.
To be sure.
Yeah, so daveclare.com. All my social media links and everything are on there. But also
quite active on LinkedIn.
Very. LinkedIn would probably be my number one platform that I'm most active on. But yeah, so if you search me there, and I'd love to connect with anybody. And all connections are done by me personally. I send personal voicemails to everybody that I actually connect with on LinkedIn as well.
Yes. LinkedIn's a great platform.
Yeah, but like I say, as soon as anyone connects with me, I send a personal voice message back to them, thanking them for reaching out to connect with me.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so that it's not some Autobot responder or anything like that. They know it's me who's actually...
You just speak in a robotic voice.
Yeah, thank you for calling Dave Clare. I appreciate your connection on LinkedIn.
It's really him doing it, though.
Yeah, this is really me. No, I think it's, once again, it's that personal touch. So, if anyone reached out to me... through my website, through contact, it's me getting back to you.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Well, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy New Decade.
Yes. Yeah, mate. Someone's going to write a song about 2020, I'm sure. It's going to be. We had a party like it's 1999. What are we going to do something for 2020?
I know.
Yeah. And it really it was a great way to cap off the year with the Bytes podcast. This has been
It's the only way to end the year.
What a way to peak out at the end of the year, right? Really,
it can only go up from here. That's
the rest of this year. Come on, that's not. It's been a privilege.
Nearly done 1 hour. I like it.
Yes, because I've.
You've got to head off to a do on the river on a 41-degree day.
I know, it's beautiful.
It's a perfect place to be.
And I'm sure I'm getting messages galore from my wife going, "Where are you?" Yes, on my phone. Anyway,
thank you, Dave Clare.
No, thank you, Michael Duncan.
Over and out for this year. I will be back. Harder and stronger, Justin Bourne. We will have you on the podcast next year. Cheers, mate. Thank you, and have a lovely end of the year.
You too. Cheers.